Time being 6:55, we are reconvened in open session. Time being 6:55, we're going into a 5-minute recess. So for those of you that are on the phone that may not have been in meetings previously, we always make sure that we do not start before 7 in case, so the people know we have the executive session. It may run longer than 7. We always try to finish it prior to 7, and we always want people to know we will not start before 7, so that if they want to come at 7 for the general session, they know that they've got a fixed time to do that.
Mayor, when you reconvene into open session, or when you come back, then you'll need to take your action from closed session.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great reminder.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for the reminder.
Everybody's still sitting. I'm like,
Well, I was waiting for like some gavel or.
we did.
Dan sent us an email back late this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to read it yet.
I read it.
Is it okay?
I haven't read it.
Okay.
That's what it is, and if you look at our quarterly, so like the quarter, that is, and we, yes, we know that quarter is over. So if you look at every quarter, it's a huge jump. So like we were talking about it, that she,
Still flying your helicopter a lot? Airplane? So were you in the final stages of getting your solo license or something with an airplane, or
every yellow.
you're full-fledged?
That just helps
Oh, okay.
script out when you, so you.
I thought I remember you saying you were having to get a whole bunch of out. Was that last year when you, or what is that? Oh, I think that's what, okay. All right. That sounds familiar. Wait, you and the wife? Just you two? You have to register flight plans with the FAA or anything like that? Is it because you don't get above a certain point, or
I would love to try it.
18,000? Jeez.
Yes. But I've never made it.
They're aware of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
I'm like all about instructor.
So just jump in the plane and where do you keep your plane at?
I didn't want this.
Northwest. Very nice.
Yeah, that one in Florida.
Why is it in Florida? Ooh, getting rid of it? Rather fly the plane? Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Time being 7:01, we are convened in open session. Town council is convened in open session to consider any action, if any, on items discussed in closed session. Do we have a motion on item number 1, consultation with town attorney regarding ordinance 690-20 declaring a local state of disaster due to public health emergency? No, suspended for 30 days. Municipal court, no in-person municipal court for 30 days. And closed front office by appointment only for 30 days.
I'll make a motion that we do those things you just said.
We have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Okay, presentation proclamation. Eagle Scout Justin. Sorry about that. It's just, Justin, are you online? Yeah, let's go ahead. So proclamation, United Way, Denton County. Do we have a representative of United Way, Denton County? Everyone was initially put on mute, so if you are attempting to talk, please validate that you are off mute. Do we have a representative of the Denton County United Way?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Hey Bill, we didn't do the Pledge of Allegiance. That's good. Good
Okay.
catch, Jack.
Good catch. Okay, so we did not have the Pledge of Allegiance listed, so let's go ahead and insert that. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's start out with Justin, are you on? Okay, great. Justin, can you hear us? Okay, Justin, you just went back to mute.
There he is.
Now we can see you. Take yourself off mute. Tammy, can you take him off mute?
Justin, can you hear us?
There we go.
Here we are.
Justin, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
You have the floor, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I think Tammy knows a little bit more, but I was just going to update all of you on the situation currently with the libraries. For those of you who haven't been up to the City Hall right now, the other day I was actually out there and I dug up the old library and cemented the 3 of the posts for the 2 new libraries, and I'm going out there with the help of some people tomorrow morning, and we plan to mount the libraries then.
Fantastic. Again, we are very excited. So just so that everybody understands, as part of Justin's Eagle Scout project, he created 2 benches for us. So if you look out in front of Town Hall, the nice benches that have individual seats with a table area in between, he built. And then he's also built us 2 libraries, one adult library, which is the large version, and a smaller, lower one that will be for kids' books, and they are phenomenal. Justin, we're very thankful and appreciative of everything that you've done. I think it's going to be great for the town, and I'll tell you what, the quality of what you build is outstanding.
Thank you very much. I am also happy with being able to help, and I also can't wait to have these things installed.
Terrific. Council, any comments?
No, it looks great, Justin. Nice work.
Thank you.
The quality of workmanship is super.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Hey, Justin, thank you.
No problem. Hey, I will get up there tomorrow and have this project wrapped up. I appreciate y'all allowing me to do this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, item number 2, proclamation, United Way of Denton County. Do we have a representative of United Way of Denton County? Okay, let's roll the reading of this until we get a representative on. So even if it rolls to next month. Public participation.
Mayor, I do not have any written comment cards.
Okay, do we have anybody online that wants to do public participation? Okay. Public participation is now closed. Appointed representative liaison reports. Denton County Emergency Services, Jim Strange, no report. Chief?
There we go. So you have 2 graphs there in front of you, which represent, again, thank you, Mayor and Council and staff for allowing me to do this. July of 2020, one being the self-initiated. I kind of broke them up. I'm gonna start doing that. So self-initiated is one graph, and then of course the calls for service are the other graph. Self-initiated side, we had a total of 322 pieces of activity. The calls for service, which will include traffic stops, were 264. And you see the breakdown of the traffic stops there. There were 143 total, 89 of which were warnings, and 50 were citations, and 4 being others. May have turned into something other than that, maybe a verbal warning or something to that effect. 2 traffic crashes. We had 1 on 407 and 1 on Noble Champions.
Noble champion. Any injuries?
I do not believe there were injuries either one of those.
Okay.
On another note, we had the blood drive at the store next door, and we exceeded the units. I don't know what the projected unit was, but we ended up with 20, so it was more than what they had planned on. Had 1 slight medical issue, but it was a first-time donor, and there were 12 first-time donors actually. So they were excited. They want to do it again. Pretty good turnout. Other than that, any questions on those numbers?
No, the blood drive was great. In fact, again, there were people in my neighborhood that wanted to participate, and you filled up the numbers before they even had a chance to. So
I was there. Me and Lance were there, and they gave out a real nice goodie bag to everybody that showed up that participated. The store did. So I got a quart of ice cream and a quart of alcoholic beverage, but they couldn't get that till the next day. So, and some of their some souvenirs. So other than that, that's all I have. They had their way, it'd be next month, but we got to get in line with the store. So
terrific.
that's it.
Any
Thank you.
questions for Chief?
Nope.
All right,
Thank you.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Town Administrator.
Mayor and Town Council, thank you. So the first one is the financial report. Just I inadvertently left the notes out of the agenda information. However, just to summarize the notes, sales tax for July 2020 was up 9% compared to July of last year, so it's still very healthy. Just to not include it in the agenda, but just to make everyone aware that and the mayor was made aware of it, but there were some fraudulent checks that were tried to cash against the town throughout June and July. But thankfully, we have a system in place with our bank, and so all of those checks were, we were alerted of them before they were able to be cashed. But it would have been 9 checks totaling to $22,000. We did advise the bank did advise us to just keep our account. It would have been administratively burdensome to create a whole other account, and the system is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So catching those fraudulent checks, and so there was no issue with that. And then the last thing is to just note that the annual payments have been made for the 2019 tax note, and also to NewQuest for the calendar year for 2019. So that's for the financial report. Included in the agenda is also the engineer's monthly report. The cleanup is in progress, and the engineering inspector is currently surveying Bartonville to create the list for punch list items that will help wrap up the 2019 streets project. Concerning Glenview, there was a little bit of an issue. We just paved Glenview not too long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and a week after paving it, a large crack did surface, which was disappointing because we did use a paving mat that was supposed to help minimize the chances of this occurring, and unfortunately occurred very soon after. So myself and Gary, and he's on the line if there's any technical questions, but we are kind of exploring our options to see what we can do with that supplier. Rock Solid did not install it. It was the supplier. So it was done by manufacturer's recommendation. So it wasn't because of our current vendor. So we are exploring our options, as I said, and I'll keep you updated with that.
Okay, so Gary, why do you think with that mat that we still had a split?
I don't really know. Went out there and looked at it, and it's interesting. Every crack you ever see starts below the surface and cracks up towards the top. And this one, it's only the surface course above the paving mat that's cracked. And you can put a sharp object like a knife or your pen or something down there, and you can tell that the crack is not in the pavement under the mat. So we've had the supplier come out. In fact, the supplier, as Sylvia said, the supplier put the mat down, and then they stayed out there and watched the paving operation to make sure everything was done according to recommendations, and apparently it was. And we've had the supplier back out, and they're scratching their heads. They don't know what's caused the crack. So at this point, they are looking to the manufacturer to see if they've got any ideas. We are probably going to end up just sealing that crack. But as Sylvia said, we're looking at our options. Frankly, I think we're going to be talking to the contractor or supplier. Well, it'd be through the contractor, that if nothing else, we get our money back for the mat. I can't tell you how disappointed I was to see those cracks so soon after all we've talked about cracks the last couple of years. And this was a way to slow down the cracking. And we've never had anything crack this quickly. And I'm just, I can't tell you how disappointing that is, but at the very least, I feel like we'll probably try to approach them about getting our money back for the mat, because it obviously hasn't done what it should have done. I don't know the reason, to tell you the truth.
Okay. And we've also seen, I sent some pictures to the town administrator of Rockgate and Hunter's Court. on a couple
Yes.
areas. I wanted you guys to take a look at in your next meeting.
Yep.
I'll be sure to include those in the punch list items or in one of our upcoming work orders.
Perfect. Mayor Pro Tem, you're smack dab in the middle of stuff. Any thoughts or comments?
No, we have a meeting on Thursday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then for animal control and building permits, a standard report, standard activity conducted this month.
Terrific. Thank you. Any questions to the town administrator? Okay, item number 1, discussion on proposed First Ranch development within the town's ETJ. Can you go ahead and bring up the letter that I sent out? So for those of you that are online, the letter, you're not going to hear anything beyond what we sent out on Monday. So went through that and tried to pull that together, but did include, if you have not seen it, it is on the front page of the website. I did include maps so you can get a much better idea of exactly what we're talking about here. Let's give a second for this to come up on the screen. Okay, great. So the initial background is what you saw in the original letter. Go ahead and stop on the map. Okay. Thanks, Tammy. No worries. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay. So what you're looking at is the letter that we sent out on Monday. So the first paragraph was what you saw previously, which kind of talks high level about it. This chart, I took what had been published on the Cross Timbers Gazette and used it to outline exactly where this ETJ is within our area. So that's the part that's marked in red. Also highlighted where Bartonville is, and then at the very top, the Lantana Liberty Christian School. So you've got all of that just to kind of get an idea of where it is. It is in the southwest corner of the town. There are 8 properties that are contiguous with that. So actually stay up to where we're talking about ETJ. So one of the things to talk about on the ETJ, so to understand the ETJ, it's our extraterritorial jurisdiction. It is under the town, but we cannot force annex it. So for those of you that have been in Texas for a long time, that used to be a very popular thing to do, is you would put things in your ETJ, you would force them to follow your ordinances. Once they then developed to a point that they became financially viable to annex, you would force annex them. That's not the way it happens today. That's not the way the law reads today. You have to have the property owner's permission to do it. They can still build without the approval of the town in that area. And it can stay as a ETJ for an extended period of time. So again, it's a matter of, there's some things that can happen without our control. We've been requested by the developer to take a look at moving it to Flower Mounds. If you can move up, Tammy, please. So First Ranch has requested that we release the ETJ to Flower Mound. They want it in a single jurisdiction. They also want the facilities that Flower Mound can provide because they are a larger municipality. And Flower Mound is interested, obviously, in them becoming part of the town. As we've said before, we have had, the owner of that property is a Bartonville resident, so we've had several conversations with him because he obviously has access to us. And we also have talked to the Flower Mound mayor, and we're going to have some conversations with their town administrator just to take a look at options. Nothing will be approved till it comes before council. So it'll come before open session on anything as we get to whatever we consider to be an appropriate recommendation. So the town will have visibility to that. But right now, the Flower Mound town administrator just turned in their resignation. They're moving to another town. That was not anticipated. So Flower Mound's going through a little bit of gyrations with that. I have been keeping, if you know about Argyle, their mayor, due to health issues, resigned. Their mayor pro tem is running Argyle now. I've been keeping her informed. So every time we publish, I publish to her and kind of just wanted to make sure she knew what was going on and has had the information that we've got. So a couple of things that we've heard, traffic density. So traffic density is a big deal. There is no intention to take any road that is inside that development and link it to any of our road network. But I would expect when that gets built out, most of the traffic will head south and hit 1171 or head west and hit 377. I don't see a lot of it coming north and potentially hitting Frenchtown. We are going to see, though, traffic increase in the town because they are doing that massive development on Frenchtown and 377 that Argyle already approved. It is a high density subdivision. I think we are going to see some traffic from that. What economic development does, we do with them every year, is we do traffic studies, meaning we do traffic counts. We will continue to monitor that, and I continue to have conversations with the county commissioner because as that continues to grow, and it's really not as not because of anything that we're doing internally, I'm going to be looking for some of the county's assistance. So some of the things that we've seen the county do before, Copper Canyon Road, concrete roads were put in there by the county. Don't know that we're ever going to get there, but if we get to the point that that traffic density increases, we're going to be talking to the county as to how they help support that because these are issues outside of the town. The other thing is we need to be very, very careful and make sure that we're protecting Saddlebrook as all of this happens as well, because it could drive a lot of traffic through that neighborhood. Substation, yes. So for those of you that have been around for a while, a few years ago, the putting of a new electrical substation inside the town was a big issue. Encore does have a site that they own that's contiguous with where the power lines are. We didn't like the idea of it being there because of it just, quite frankly, being aesthetically unpleasing. We had some conversations with Encore and CoServe, had some discussions about some alternate locations. What we did get CoServe to agree to, and I'm doing kind of air quotes on that because nothing's in writing, but what we got them to agree to is they would not put in any new lines. They might change the pole size and put in more lines if it ended up in Bartonville. But I was trying to keep them, we were trying to keep them from putting in new lines and cutting through another set of trees. We have had some conversations with the developer of First Ranch on options, and those conversations will continue. Our preference obviously is if there's a new substation built, it will really be required because of First Ranch and we would prefer it's not in Bartonville. But again, we have to remember they own the land right now, and so it's something, this is another area where we need to negotiate, because they could put it where it is right now. Quite frankly, we could be a pain, but in the end, we probably wouldn't be able to stop it. And then obviously we have a financial interest. So as we take a look at this, you know, one of the things that we saw with Tour 18 is when we released the 700 plus acres there 13 years ago, the town did draw a payment from Flower Mound over a period of time. So if we did get to this point, we would be looking for something similar. We have not, again, we've gone through, there are 8 contiguous properties that are inside of Bartonville or Bartonville's ETJ. 2 of them have a financial interest in First Ranch, so that gets you down to 6. One of the next largest property owner is contiguous, brought the property recently from Jack First, so we need to see where he stands. Gets you down to 5. Of those 5, 3 are in ETJ that would stay as part of Bartonville. We're going to be reaching out to that community to see if they would like to become a part of the town. And then the other 2 properties are 2-acre lots on Glenview. So they've got a very small piece on the back of it, but we're looking at bringing those residents together and kind of getting their views on what they would like to see as well. So our primary focus is to make sure that we're protecting their rights and protecting what they came into Bartonville to do. And I think that's it. Again, the exploratory discussions are still there. We just haven't done anything with it. Everything will come before this council and be done in open session before any final decisions are made. Council, questions or additional thoughts or comments? Okay, thank you. Item number 2, public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Exhibit A, Article 14.2, Ordinance 361.05, zoning regulations by amending Chapter 11, Article 11.2, use permits for the Town of Bartonville by amending an existing conditional use permit site plan for the operation of the restaurant and retail shop located at 96 McMakin Road, Bartonville, Texas. The property to be considered for the conditional use permit is zoned rural business with restaurant and retail store as permitted use by conditional use permit only. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 at its August 5th meeting. Applicant presentation. Tim, are you on?
On mute.
We've got somebody, yeah, waving at
I
us.
think you're on mute.
There you,
Hello? Hello?
there you go. We can hear you now.
Okay, I apologize. I'm not the best Zoomer. My name is Tim House, representing Bartonville Store. I live at 240 McMakin Road in Double Oak. And my first thought is I need to apologize to everyone for creating such an issue here. I did not anticipate I would have to go through this type of approval process for what I did. And it's my fault, ignorance of how the CUP works, and I apologize. Nonetheless, what we did when the COVID thing hit and then we were allowed to open back up to a limited capacity, we found many people were more comfortable eating outside than inside. So we quickly built a deck there in the back. It is less square footage than the deck that's allowed by the old CUP or the existing CUP, but it is a different configuration. I thought Tammy would not be looking out the window to see me, but she did. So as a result, I'm here asking your forgiveness and your permission to finish this deck. It's basically finished except for painting and putting some lights on it. It will be an uncovered deck. We're not building a structured cover. We do intend to hang some shade cloths over the top of it during the summer months, but that would not be a part of the structure at all. So I ask your permission to finish this. It would help us out with our operation right now in this COVID time. And I hope you'll see my side of it. thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, obviously I'd answer them.
Terrific. Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim at the moment? Okay, great. Tim, obviously stick around. Let us finish this out. Staff presentation.
Sure. Just to give you a high-level overview of the application. So there's a proposed shed component, which is approximately 96 square feet. And then, yes, there's a proposed shed that's part of the application, and it's 96 square feet. There's also a proposed patio that's a total of 419 square feet. And as Mr. House stated, it does fall under the square footage that was approved in the original CUP. It's slightly under. In the rural business district where the business falls under, accessory buildings such as sheds are approved if they are incidental to the operation of the business, as long as they don't exceed 400 square feet, which this one does not exceed. Just one thing to note to town council is that the site plan application did list a small area for outdoor cooking. And in our original CUP, it did state that town council does need to approve any outdoor cooking equipment or requests. So just to note.
So yes, let me just jump on that comment. And where that came from is when we originally did the CUP, just as a quick reminder, one of the concerns we got from a couple of the residents was the potential smell of barbecue all the time. So now we sent out notices to the contiguous neighbors.
Yes.
Did we get any comments back?
Did not get any comments.
Okay,
Hey, can I ask Tim a question?
please.
Tim, can you talk a little bit about the outdoor cooking and what type of equipment?
Certainly, certainly. I don't know if any of you have been to the community events where we bring a flat top cooker. It's no bigger than the grill you have at your house, but we'll bring a flat top cooker and prepare various things, hot dogs, hamburgers, sometimes some hibachi type things, chicken and rice, etc. But it is a small unit. It's about the size of an outdoor cooker or an outdoor grill like you have in your backyard. We'd like to have that. And in addition, we would like the flexibility to have what I'm calling a typical residential outdoor grill. This would not be for permanent cooking. It would be for, oh yeah, there's pictures of the deck. And you can see it's about a 7 foot by 6 foot area, I believe. It's there in the foreground on the right. That's where I would propose putting the outdoor cooker. And it's not an everyday use. It would be for when we have events on the patio or the back porch. It's not a regular thing at all. They would not even have permanent gas connections. We'd run them off a propane tank. And so anyway, I think it's consistent. When we approved the original CUP, I described what we would like to do, and I think this is consistent with that description, although I can't find any evidence that I ever provided anything to you in writing. So I apologize for that. But the big question in the original CUP was what they didn't want to have, our neighbors did not want us to have a 24/7 wood-fired barbecue grill. And I understand that. Our smoker that we have is gas with wood assist, and we've never had any objections. You don't notice it's on when you're in the parking lot. So that's it in a nutshell. And again, I apologize for bringing this to you somewhat after the fact. The shed itself, by the way, is just a typical 8x12 shed, like you'd get it at Lowe's or Home Depot. In fact, the one that's being shown is the Lowe's version, I believe. Yeah, a Lowe's version. And we would paint it to be consistent with the store. We've had to remove tables and chairs to abide by the restrictions of COVID. We do have a small storage space within the building. It is now junked up completely, and we'd like to have some relief. And this is all we're asking for.
So Tim, on that, I'm sorry, please. Tim, on that shed,
Yes,
assuming single story with the pitched roof, basically similar in height size as what we're seeing right now?
it would be that unit is what we'd talk about, the Rockport 8x12. And as I said, we would we were going to get one that's not completely finished so that we can paint it to match the building. We'd paint it white to match the building. It would have shingles to match the building. I really think it would look consistent in every way.
Okay, sorry, Clay.
One other question, Tim, quickly.
Yes.
That grill, that flat base grill that you're talking about, that's the same one that you use at the National Night Out? Is that not
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Okay. And that's propane fired?
it's propane fired. My estimate is it's no wider than 6 feet and no deeper than 3 feet.
Okay. Okay, well, so still got time. Time being 7:36, we are open for public hearing. Do we have anyone that wants to speak in favor? Do we have anyone that wants to speak opposed? Tammy, are you seeing anyone? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, great.
I don't see any hands raised, sir.
Time being 7:36, we close this public hearing. Council discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Oh,
Tammy, like this.
yeah, going forward, that's going to be called the clay thing.
The system will only let so many microphones be on at a time. There's the question. The draft ordinance is included in the package and it has the proposed language in there. So if you want to make any changes to it, it has the conditional use permit amendments with the addition of the open deck, the storage shed, covered area for outdoor cooking. Upon approval of your COP, he would still have to get the building permit process and do all of that.
Just full finger. Full finger just straight down.
There we go. Make a motion that we accept number 2.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Council, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Tim?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And again, I apologize for putting the cart before the horse. And Tammy, I will just note in your amendment that you're showing, you may want to move the decimal point on the open deck. It says 237.5, which would take me into the vet clinic next door, which will be fine with me, but I don't have his permission yet. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you all. I appreciate it.
Item number 3, public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Exhibit A, Article 14.02, Ordinance 361.05, zoning regulations to change the zoning designation for Kincaid Lot 2R, Block A, approximately 10.09 acres from Agricultural District AG to public, semi-public P/SP. This track is located at 3300 East Jeter Road, Bartonville, Texas. The applicant requested this item be postponed. Time being 7:39, we open public hearing. So what do we need to do here? Because this is the first time we've had this one.
Yes, so essentially what happened is the applicant gave us a location, and so we published that in the newspaper, and we put information for the planning and zoning meeting and for this meeting. And after the fact that it was published, the applicant decided to postpone so that they could look at other location options. So because we already published it in the newspaper, we had to open the public hearing, but we do not close it. That's correct, right, Ed?
That's right. By opening it and then not closing it and postponing, we avoid the need to renotice and save
Got
that
it.
cost.
Okay, perfect. So now we've got the template because we've got several like this. Council, do I have a motion to postpone the public hearing to September 15th, 2020? Okay, do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 4. Ed, do I need to read these verbatim?
Well, Mayor, as a matter of fact, I think you do, since that's how we've noticed them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ed. Public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the Town of Bartonville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Exhibit A, Article 14.02, Ordinance 361.05, zoning regulations by amending Chapter 5, Article 5.2, uses permit for the Town of Bartonville by granting a conditional use permit to allow for a 130-foot monopole tower with 8-foot lightning rod with associated equipment within a 65-foot by 65-foot fenced and evergreen screened compound located at 2200 East Jeter Road, Bartonville, Texas. This property is being considered for conditional use permit is the same for which the zoning application from agricultural to public, semi-public is being requested. The applicant requested this item be postponed. The Planning and Zoning Commission opened the public hearing and continued the public hearing to its September 2nd, 2020 meeting. Time being 7:42, public hearing is open. Council, do I have a motion to postpone the public hearing to September 15th, 2020 after motion? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 5, public hearing to consider a site plan for Hemp Hill LLC, being all of a tract of land being described as Kincaid, Lot 2R, Block A, Town of Bartonville, Denton County, Texas. The property is generally described as a 10.09 acre tract of land located on the south side of East Jeter Road, most commonly known as 2200 East Jeter Road, Bartonville, Texas. The applicant requested this item be postponed. The Planning and Zoning Commission opened the public hearing and continued the public hearing to its September 2nd, 2020 meeting. Time being 7:43, public hearing is open. Council, do I have a motion to postpone the public hearing to September 15th, 2020?
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 6, discuss and consider approval of a resolution of the Town Council of Bartonville adopting a compensation plan for employees and providing an effective date. Tammy, can you go ahead and bring up the presentation? So for those of you that are online, this is and here present, this is a continuation of discussion that we had last Tuesday. So we started a process to take a look at making some changes to the way we do the compensation plan going forward. Okay. Tammy, let me know when we're presenting to all. Okay, great. Let's go to the first slide, please. Okay, so this is high level. Council, you saw this last week, but I think, again, we've got a bunch of people here. So what are our goals on this? Obviously, as a standard, as a council, we always want to pay fair. We want to drive accountability, but we also want to maintain good stewards of public funds. The town administrator obviously wants to make sure that we're compensating fairly and all of the other items. And then chief, again, his focus has always been compensate fairly, accountability, but also had requested that we do a raise in the starting salary to support recruiting and retention of our officers. Next slide, please. No worries, take your time. That is the right slide, yes. Now, is it being viewed by? Okay, terrific. Okay, so what we've done is we have, instead of doing what we've done in the past, which has been for the officers, we've had a step plan. And then for the rest of the staff, we've gone through as the council and determined pay raises for all of the staff. Quite frankly, we've never been a big fan of that, but we kind of were stuck into a few things as we went through some learning curves over the years. What we want to do now is put in pay ranges and then authorize the town administrator a certain percentage of those of the existing pay amounts to then be distributed to the staff. So let's say, for example, and a lot of people that are in corporate America have seen this, you'll get authorized, let's say, for example, a 3% pay raise for the staff. That goes in and then that's distributed down. So some people could see a 4.5% pay raise. Some people could see a 2% pay raise. But when you total it all up, it's 3% of the pay raise of the entity. So our desire is then to publish, these are the pay ranges. And then once the pay raise is given out, well, excuse me, let's just go through and stick with this. You can see the pay ranges exist. Are there any concerns? And we'll give a couple of minutes for you guys to take a look at this. Are there any concerns with the pay ranges that we have posted up here? Where the pay ranges came from is I worked with Council Member Carrington and Council Member Phillips on this to sit there. And what we used as a basis for this is we took a look at towns of similar size that are in the general community and wanted to make sure that we were A, competitive, and B, we're in a range that was sustainable for the town, which has always been one of our goals. Well, yeah, just one quick second. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so recommended policy change. So going forward, the council would authorize the pay ranges, which is what you just saw, and would authorize a yearly budget. For merit increases, staff with more than 4 months of service would be eligible for a pay raise. If they've got less than a year of service at the start of the fiscal year, it would be a prorated pay raise. And then if staff has hit the maximum amount in their pay range, they would be given a lump sum. So it wouldn't be a pay raise, but it would be that amount for that year. The way we would do it is, again, the town administrator would be given 3% of funds for all of those below her that she would then manage with the chief and her staff. Council would still maintain the pay raise for the town administrator. And then for what's done within the staff, 2 council members would be selected just to review it. It's not something that comes back to council for a vote, just to make sure that again, that there are not any concerns. So we would elect 2 people to do that. And that's kind of the high level proposal. And the item in green, for those of you that are just joining us, are the changes that are from last month. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the specific recommendation? Adopt the policy that we just discussed. For the police department, we currently have a step plan. Quite frankly, not a huge believer in the step plan because it's automatic pay raises. Let's let the chief do pay raises based upon performance. Increase the starting salary of individual officers to $55,000. That has 2 officers that are below that amount now. So raise them to that minimum amount. We also, the minimum pay for the position of chief of police is 81,000. So we're proposing raising that that as well to the 81,000. Now the number you're seeing up there is a fully burdened rate. So when you see the numbers for the police officers, it says $9,000. Well, it's their pay increase. Plus, if you look at the bottom of the screen, we talk about fully burdened being 21.46%. So if you take in what their salary is, there's an additional 21.46% of costs associated with retirement, Medicare, and workers' comp that gets added to that. So I just wanted to basically make sure, as you saw this, you saw the fully burdened rate. And then town secretary, two things. One is we wanted to discuss and approve a one-time lump sum payment, given that the town secretary had significantly additional burden while we transitioned between Michael as town administrator and the start of Sylvia. And then set the pay raise for this year. When we met, we are recommending 3%. So how we got to that is we took a look at what the communities around us are doing. Double Oak's doing 3%. Argyle's doing 2.5%. Flower Mound, because their taxes have been hit so heavily, they're doing 0%. As you see in corporate America, 3% is pretty much of a standard. Josh and I have both seen that in our companies over the years. So our recommendation is to do a 3%. Now, the way that would work out this year is for those that are the officers that are being brought up to their minimum salaries, their salaries would not be included in that 3% pool. So really what you would get is Sylvia would be given 3% of the combined salaries of the town secretary and the sergeant and the senior patrolman of the department, because those are the ones that are not seeing pay raises through the formula of taking them up to the new minimums. And then that would be distributed by them. Any questions? Oh, stay here, because I think that is the last slide. Yes. Yes. So absolutely. And so so the way it practically plays out this year is, let's say for the sake of argument that you council approved 3%. She would get 3% of the combined salaries of those two officers and in this case, Tammy. She would then decide what the pay raise was going to be for Tammy and what the amount that would go to the chief for his officers. Chief would then have that amount and he would determine the pay raise for their officers. If there is, for some reason that entire amount is not distributed, it would still stay in the budget for potentially pay raises during the course of the year. So yes. So there would be some flexibility around that pay. Is there any discussion? Because before we do to vote, I'll get into the specifics as to what we're exactly asking for approval. Okay, so what we're asking for approval is adoption of the policy. Now, what I'd want to do is have that policy go to Ed, have it get written out into the legalese that it needs to be done. The big things that we'd be looking for approval on tonight is minimum salary for the approval of the pay ranges, minimum salary for the police officers of $55,000, raise them to that starting salary. Minimum salary for the chief of $81,000, raise him to that salary. The next point is lump sum payment for the town secretary for the additional work. So there was 7.5, approximately 8 weeks between Michael leaving and Sylvia starting. Obviously, there's also an additional burden of as she goes through and brings Sylvia up to speed. Do we have a proposal on a payment for that time?
I thought you had discussions with the three of you at the time.
We did, and so the number that was discussed at that time, just wanted to give a little bit of replay, was $2,500. So if we look at what we had done last time when there was a break between the service of Stacy and Michael started, we raised the pay $500 a month. If we look at what's going on, we've got the 2-month separations, plus there's probably going to be a 3-month additional burden as you go through the training. So we were thinking 2,500. So 2,500 lump sum payment, and then 3% raise for the other staff. Do we have any discussion on that? Okay. Do we have a motion? Do you want me to say it again?
I'll make a motion to accept your proposal.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 7, public hearing on a proposed annual budget for the town of Bartonville for the fiscal year October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2021. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. So included in the agenda is the latest version of the budget. The proposed budget for FY 2021 was filed with the town secretary on July 31st. The agenda packet has a list of budget modifications that have been made to date. So I'll just briefly list those for your reference. Well, it includes the revenues for ad valorem taxes. The Denton Central Appraisal District still has not been able to provide the certified rolls, so we're still working on their certified estimates. So we're hoping to receive those by the end of this month or early next month so that we have those certified totals for the final budget. Sales tax continues to, increase and is very strong, but we continue to also use that conservative approach going into the next years. We do have a transfer from the Community Development Corporation that increased by $5,000 and on the revenue side. And then you'll also see that there was an encumbrance of funds for elections. Since we didn't have our election this year, we're just going to roll over those funds into the next year. So it shows as a revenue for $12,500. Sure. So on the budget, well, I'm listing the items. I'm listing the items that are on page 75. On page 75 of the agenda packet. But on the actual budget, I'm listing item 100-4002. That's the tax revenues. I also referenced the sales tax, item 100-40025. The transfer from the BCDC is item 100-4730. And the encumbrance of funds for elections is in item 100-10-5226. And those are all on the front page of the budget on the revenue section. Yes. And then on the expenses, I guess one change that was made from the last time we met was for the health and dental insurance. Initially, the health insurance rate for the next year was a 9% increase. However, town staff was able to find some savings for the dental portion of the insurance while not sacrificing any of the coverage for town staff. And so in total, the increase will only be 5% instead of 9%. And that is in item 100-10-5025. Oh, thank you. There's also the election expense. You'll see that that's higher, but only because we weren't able to have our May 2020 election. We also have the transfer to the INS fund. Our property insurance will increase by 3%, so that's reflected in this budget as well. I included a estimate of an increase for town attorney fees if we decide to go forward with any discussions related to the development. Computer and maintenance and software costs went up approximately between 3 to 5% on both the administration and the police side. However, for police, those costs were able to be offset by reductions in their fuel supplies. So it was essentially no difference there. And last, for utilities on the police side, there was a $600 increase for an additional phone that was needed. And in terms of the funds, and you'll see this fund on the very last section of the budget. You'll see our COVID-19 fund. And this is our the $95,205 that we received from Denton County related to the coronavirus relief fund. And so we have hard copies that were provided to everyone of how we submitted our budget for those $95,000, but those expenses are now reflected in that COVID-19 fund.
Council, any questions? Okay, time being 8:01, open public hearing. Do we have anyone that would like to speak in favor? Do we have anyone that would like to speak opposed? Great. Time being 8:02, close this public hearing. Council, do I have a motion to direct staff to prepare an ordinance for adopting the budget consideration at September 5th, 2020 regular meeting? The only thing I will add to that is they will also then make adjustments to some salaries based on. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that staff prepare a budget for the September meeting.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 8, discuss and consider approval of the Bartonville Crime Control and Prevention District's amended budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 for the purchase of flock safety equipment.
Included in the agenda packet is the amended budget. Now, with the approval of the amended budget, the Crime Control District would then be able to enter into the agreement with Flock, which, as the mayor noted, is $38,500 for 14 cameras over a 12-month lease, essentially. So in order to accommodate for the cameras, there were some minor adjustments that were made for the current amended budget. The most significant decrease took place in the equipment and vehicle line item. Contract negotiations with Flock went very smoothly. Ed caught a lot of great things in their terms of conditions, and they were agreeable to all of the changes.
Okay, quick question. So what I'm looking at is the only one we've got online right now is Ed, correct?
Woody dropped.
Yep, good job.
Okay. Any discussion?
Okay. So, yes, I was the proponent with Bobby to bring this up and drive this forward. But Bobby specifically told me that the crime control would be able to cover the cost of this as well as what it was already doing. Unfortunately, that is not true. So even though they are going, in this proposal, they're going to pay the money, they're either going to run out of money or they're going to run, if they continue to do it, how long can they pay for it before they run out of money?
So staff did some just projections, and we were very conservative, assuming that revenues were consistent and expenses also stayed consistent. Essentially, it would be a $10,000 decrease to the fund for every year.
Okay,
So about 4 to 5 years.
so, but is that before you rolled things off of crime control into the general budget, into the general fund?
It is not included in the general fund.
Okay, let's back up. Let's make sure we're asking the question right. So if today we were to say, have them pay for it, have the crime control pay for it 100%, and crime control continue to pay everything that they were paying beforehand, car reserves, equipment, uniforms, everything, when would crime control run out of money?
I don't have that specific number because there were a lot of adjustments made to the current budget.
So what we did was we pulled things out of crime control and put them into the general budget for us to pay for. No?
When they reviewed their budget, they pulled out line items that they weren't spending.
We weren't spending them.
They
Okay.
weren't, they were building a reserve on
Okay.
items that they weren't spending, so they broke down those line items when they amended their budget.
Okay. So everything that they've been paying for in the past, they will continue to pay for.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. And if they continued, if they paid for the 14 cameras, they would pay for those. And on average, if things increase the same rate that they're increasing, their budget would drop $10,000 a month. Now, if it went up greater, it would be a lesser amount.
A year.
A year. And so we would project that they would run out of money then. They have how much right now? Rough
As of-
number?
So by the end of this fiscal year, their fund balance would be 69,000. Then I'm sorry, 54,000. So then it'd be 44,000, 34,000. So essentially 4.5 years.
So 4.5 years. 4.5 years to play with it. And understand that then thereafter, you end up start to pull that cost into our budget, but 4.5 years. All right.
One thing I can say is the I don't know if the benefit's the right word, but again, this is an annual lease. And if it's some point throughout this agreement, we're going to keep a lot of data. We're going to monitor this deal, monitor the system. And if it gets to a point to where it's not, if we're not seeing a lot of results out of it, then that's something we may, and the crime control was very adamant about this, something we may need to revisit as far as extending that lease another year. So we're not saying we're 100% locked in until we run out of money. We're going to monitor just like we would any other program. And if it doesn't, if the end result isn't what we would like it to be, then of course we would revisit it. So we're not necessarily saying we're committed to running everything out of crime control until we're out of money. That's not our plan. Our plan is to see how this works. And if it is a benefit, then we'll continue to go forward with it.
So Chief, have you and Crime Control talked about what it would take to make it worth the money? Have you guys, what will be the telltale sign that it's worth it?
We're going to look at it the first year just to kind of
Okay.
see what what that looks like.
All right, that's fair.
I don't have the answer because I don't know what's coming through here and what's not.
Chief, remind me, because as I remember it, they're going to take care of, out of this first year's money, they're going to take care of all the install costs, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so that leaves the only other question that we haven't done is that we, and again, I'm the proponent of this, but we have done nothing to educate the citizens of Bartonville that we're going to stick cameras throughout the town and take their license plates photos.
So fully understand. So what I was going to ask for at the end of this stuff is we draft it, because we do need to send a letter out saying we're going to do this. And then we just need to be very, very careful about this. And I think what we want to do is let's write it, send it through me. I want to send it through the council. Let's just make sure that we're all comfortable with the wordsmith, because I will tell you, as soon as this goes out,
Yep.
everybody's going to get phone calls.
Oh, you'll get hate mail because they won't understand it. And then
Correct.
once they do, they'll be like, oh,
I have fielded a couple calls from citizens, and I've eased some concerns.
Let's start with Chief. I'm going to task you, go back to the manufacturer. They've got to have some good verbiage that explains this well. And then let's start with that.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
Because we need 100% transparency.
we do, but I mean, again, we need to understand there's going to be people that
Oh, yeah.
are not going to like this, and we need,
You're right.
but as you explain it, I mean, look what happened with First Ranch. I mean, let's face
Okay.
it, it turned into hate mail hell. Once we started explaining it now, you saw, I thought we were going to have more people than this on that call, and they all dropped off after we talked about it. So I think everybody kind of understands
Agreed.
what's going on with this, and we can explain it well. And again, I think for the most part, the town trusts us, but yes, there is some general big brother-ish thoughts until you understand.
I would also recommend, and obviously running this past the attorney, is to put something in cross timbers. Some sort of, some sort of little bit to get that out there, because people do read that.
So again, we'll put it in our standard monthly thing that we publish under the mayor's section. So we'll get that out there. Yes, so tune, want to use that as communication, but we also want to use that as an opportunity to let people outside of Bartonville know this is going on. Because again, there's the deterrence factor. Absolutely.
We'll use our social media also.
Yep.
Just grab that information if you can from Flock, because I'm sure they have the soft and, soothing verbiage.
Sure, absolutely.
But I'm famous for soft and soothing verbiage.
Make sure we're clear on this. Do not let the mayor review it and send it out. Do not. That should be a legal thing, Ed.
I'll keep that in mind.
That's hurtful talk. So we've got it. This is a discuss and approval. Any more discussion? Do we have a motion? It is item number 8.
I make a motion that we approve item number 8 and direct the chief to contact Flock and gather some verbiage information for communication.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 9, public hearing to consider Bartonville Crime Control and Prevention District proposed budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending on September 30th, 2021. Staff presentation.
So on that same topic, you'll see that the proposed budget for 2020-2021 is very in line with the adopted budget of this year. For expenses, the next year, the Flock price would decrease from $38,500 to $35,000, and then it would just remain consistent. And you can see there that that's where that $10,000 decrease in fund balance is starting to present.
Thank you, staff. Time being 8:13, open public hearings. Anyone that wants to speak in favor? Anyone wants to speak opposed? Time being 8:13, close to public hearing. Council, any discussion? Council, do we have a motion? We're in number 9.
I make a motion that we accept item number 9 as written.
We have a second? All in favor? Great, thank you, council. Motion carries. Item number 10, discuss and consider approval of authorizing a portion of the town of Bartonville's funds received from the COVID virus relief fund to be allocated to Denton County Emergency Services District Number 1 to support first responders' salaries due to coronavirus pandemic. So let me give you the background on this one. The county commissioner reached out to me on behalf of the Emergency Services District asking for support. What they've seen is a significant number of the firefighters have gotten the COVID virus. They are required by law to pay the firefighters while they're off, which means they're also paying a second firefighter overtime to be on as part of that staff. Obviously, their exposure to the public, we, at least with our police department, can control the exposure. We can decide what we pull over and what we stop and what we do. In many cases, they get a lot more calls, especially when you start taking a look at the EMTs. So they've requested this. I would tell you, we got 95,000. I was thinking of proposing to you that we dedicated 5,000 to go to the ESD. Reason for that number, it just seemed like a reasonable number when it came up. If we look at what Argyle did 15,000. Again, I didn't come up with 5,000 because of it, but Argyle is roughly 3 times our size. And this is something that we all use. This also is support of the ESD, and it's not an amount of money that's going to cause us any angst or any problems with what we've got going on. In fact, in several areas, we're still running very, very low on our costs. Please.
Anytime we either get exposed or have a possible exposure, they're the ones that sanitize our equipment. They use the stuff that they have. We take the vehicles over there, they spray them, or they've even came here and sprayed the building. So we didn't pay for any of that. They did.
Chief, thank you. Great point.
The Emergency Service District, under the CARES Act, do they not also get funds?
They do. They're running out of them.
Yeah, I mean, they do get compensated by the CARES Act.
So they do, yes.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And again, the reason the county commissioner came to us is because they're absolutely running out of those funds.
Well, the reason I asked that is because 5,000 seemed like pittance to the size of the department that they're running if they don't have CARES Act contributing to their portion.
Correct. And again, this is not, I would tell you, I think we want to show them support.
Sure.
We want to give them an amount of money, but this is not an intent to create a burden on the town of Bartonville for the Emergency Services District. And if we look at what Argyle just did, we're in a pro ratio of, citizens per capita equivalent to what they've done.
So Tammy and I have had an exchange of emails on philosophies on this. And not that I'm opposed to helping out the fire district and all that, but it does irritate me that when we brought the fire district into being, they came in at a rate and said that was a good tax rate, but their maximum tax rate was 10%. And immediately, I mean, it's almost like overnight, they were at 10%. And every dime they get, they spend. This is before COVID. And this is just me bitching. So I'll support the 5,000. I don't have a problem with it. But it's just the fact that they carry so little in reserve. They have nothing to protect themselves from things that happen because they spend it every dime on stuff and people, and they are well funded and they are well budgeted. So that was just me to rant about lack of income management.
I can't argue against any of those points because we've had those discussions as well before. The acceleration ramp, they started out at 3% and they hit 10% within 2 years. It was a bit frustrating.
Hey,
but again,
I got a question though. So in the budget that you just went over, there's 68,000, and is that 95 that we got? Is this 68 of that? Is there a correlation between what's in this and the 95,000?
So the 95,000 is the total amount that we were appropriated, if you will.
Yeah.
We have spent approximately 30 to 35,000 in equipment and such.
Okay.
So we have essentially 60 to 65,000 left.
So is
to
the
spend.
amount that's COVID in the budget, that's separate? That's just us planning for additional COVID
Yes.
expenses that we would not apply the CARES Act money towards?
If you look on the sheet up here, or it's also the sheet that's attached, that sheet that's handed out to you
Yep.
is that's laid into the budget. It's the same information.
I had it somewhere.
The one in your,
I had it somewhere. Oh, I got it, right.
That, yeah, so that's the budget that was submitted to the county. And we took that information and put it into our budget because we had to create a fund
Right.
because we had to accept that money.
Okay.
We're gonna have to amend this current year's budget, in fact, and bring it in because we actually got the money this year and we've spent money this year. So out of the line items that because it's very specific what you can spend it on. We have a line item, so that's the next question is what line item would you like us to reduce? And the one that I think staff would recommend would probably take out, we allocated certain funds. I think the one probably be maybe COVID leave. We budgeted COVID leave. There's a new law that says that if we get COVID, if we get sent home, if the doctor puts us in quarantine, that there's certain criteria that you get up to 2 weeks COVID leave. So we budgeted as if every employee got 2 weeks COVID leave. I don't know we can't predict what's going to happen. So that's where that 15,700, we've actually used $850 of it. So the balance of that budget is $14,850.
And even if we got into a situation, I mean, I think this is something that we could cover ourselves. And quite frankly, Chief, you and your officers are not authorized to get COVID. We have the money. Okay. Okay, great. Well, are we ready to go? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we donate or give $5,000 to the ESD.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 11, discussion and consideration boards and commission applications. Consider approval resolution appointing members to the Bartonville Community Development Corporation. Consider approval of a resolution appointing members of the Board of Adjustments. Consider approval of a resolution appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Consider approval of a resolution appointing members to the Crime Control District. Do we have to do these as separate motions or can we do it all as one?
No, you'll need to make 4 separate motions because there's 4 separate resolutions.
Okay.
And
So- Please.
I'm sorry. We did receive 4 new applications as outlined in the agenda memo from Keith Crandall, Margie Aarons, Matthew Chapman, and Dan Adams. I did notate, I sent you an email regarding one of the applicants whose home burned down that's not currently residing, but if his home didn't burn down, he'd still be living here. He is in the process of building his home. It's up to you as council. If it's a fine line, technically, is he currently a resident? By all means, he's still we talked to Ed about it. It's you as a council that wants to make that decision. Personally, if it was my choice, I can't. It's your decision as council, so I just had to bring it to your attention. If you appoint all the new and the applicants that reapplied, that still would leave 1 vacancy on the Community Development Corporation.
Who was the person? I forgot their name. The one that had the house burned down?
Matt Chapman.
Mr. Chapman.
Chapman.
All right.
He's recommended for crime control.
Okay. I'm sorry, any other questions on that? Okay.
So-
So, I'm sorry, as we've got this, so Tammy just did some preliminary estimates for us. Councilwoman Carrington has a recommendation to make a couple of minor adjustments. So I think let's hear what she'd like to do, and then let's just go down one by one and go through this process.
I think basically they look pretty good, except I'd like to switch Keith Crandall and put him on BOA, which he will do, and Margie Aarons on planning and zoning, because Mr. Crandall is a background in real estate development. I'm a little scared to put him on P&Z. So I think Board of Adjustments would be a great place for him to start out. Anyway, they keep a good member to be on that.
Thank you for your input.
Okay, do we have any group discussion? Because I'll go through and read through based upon the recommendation that she just made. I'll read through each of them and we'll go through a motion on each. Okay, do we have a motion on Board of Adjustments? to move Helen Stewart from alternate 1 to the vacant position, to move Rick Lawrence from alternate 2 to alternate 1, and to move Keith Crandall to alternate 2. Do we have a motion?
Okay, I was gonna say,
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council.
Mayor, you need to make a motion on the reappointments of Kathy Dom and Donna Baumgartner.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion to reappoint Kathy Dom and Donna Baumgartner to their positions respectively on the Board of Adjustments?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Kathy and Donna to BOA.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, planning and zoning. Planning and zoning, do we have a,
Yes.
got it. Thank you, ma'am. Planning and Zoning Commission, move to appoint a resolution appointing Ralph Arment, Gloria McDonald, and Brenda Hyatt Stenovich to a 2-year term expiring September 30th, 2022. Jim Roberts to the alternate position with a term expiring September 20th, 2022. Margie Aarons to the alternate 2 position with a term expiring September 30th, 2021. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to do what he just said.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Community Development Corporation, move to approve a resolution appointing Jim Foringer, Terry Rock, and Don Adams to a 2-year term expiring September 30th, 2022. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Jim Foringer, Terry Rock, and Dan Adams for their terms.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we approved it.
Yes. No, we did. The first one, I missed those 2 that were in there. When we did the second one, we captured it. So we adjust on the fly very well. Okay, Crime Control District, move to approve a resolution appointing Lori Van Alstine, Johnny Jones, Kevin Oldham, and Matthew Chapman to the Crime Control District effective September 1st, 2020 for a 2-year term expiring August 31st, 2022. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to do what he just said.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Future agenda items, we can, you can send them to us in between. This has been a very long night, but I will tell you that I thought we were going to be significantly later this. Thank you very much for helping move this through. Great job as always. Time being 8:28, we are adjourned.
So I was going with the idea of saying, I make a motion that we approve as stated by the mayor. Just. Oh, yeah, no, I'm not doing it now. Oh, yeah.
Y'all have a good night. I'll see you.
Hey, thanks.
Good night, Ed.
Thanks,
Thank
Ed. Have a
you.
great evening.
All right, you too.